From the Central Business District in Abuja, this is Third Eye Television Africa. My name is Benjamin, and we shall be looking at, by way of x-raying Nigeria, whether politically and indeed within the confine of our security. Are we moving forward? Are we stagnant? Are we looking at the future with some hopes? Where we have a gentleman, when I say gentleman, I'll also add a honorable gentleman who will x-ray this for us. A former Minister of Youth and Sports, a politician of note, a lawyer. I don't know whether I should describe him as a hunter too, because I usually see him displaying some skills. I want to welcome on board Honorable Solomon Dalung, former Minister of Sports and Youth Development. Thank you for coming to Third Eye.
Thank you very much for the opportunity and compliment of the season to fellow Nigerians.
Yes, I can see that for now you are not wearing a good smile. How is the security like of Nigeria? Let's start on a general note.
Well, I think the security situation basically has not been encouraging, and it has been can be described like moving forward and backward, preferably the one step forward, two step backward scenario. Things have continued to deteriorate. The security architecture appears not to have the capacity to contend with the dynamics of the security situation. We've deployed more rhetorics in terms of trying to account for the lives of many Nigerians that are lost daily, instead of being more pragmatic in dealing with the security situation, preferably or going by, theoretical perspective, looking at the remote causes and trying to tackle them. So you wake up with very sweet stories of we are on top of the situation. And this language has lived with Nigerians for close to a decade. They've been on top of the situation, but in actual sense, they are at the bottom of it. Because the more they claim to be on top of the situation, the more emboldened and daring the criminal elements are. And I want to cap this up with a situation which actually devastated me much, where the National Security Advisor came out and claimed that, the security situation in the Northwest had improved considerably. And on the strength of such a statement from a top government official, especially a man within the security architecture, a professor from University of Sokoto, embarked on a journey that consumed his life. So, security, if it's calm today, it is more or less like the graveyard peace, where you have people sitting quietly, but somebody is on the ground. So I always do not like discussing security in this country, because every blessed day, one community is sacked or the other. You have the evolution of new criminal gangs with different nomenclatures, issuing threats and enforcing their threat. The latest was by the bandit kingpin in Zamfara, whose in-law was kidnapped and was arrested. And he issued a statement before the new year that if he wasn't released, he was going to wreak havoc and mayhem on neighboring communities. And when January came, he made good his promise. And as we're talking, many communities have been displaced, many people have been kidnapped. So security have been behaving like the blood pressure of an old man. He's stable today, tomorrow it has escalated.
Yeah. Okay, talking of being stable, talking of being escalated, now let's go to Plateau, where you also come from. It's been lingering for such a long time, insecurity, clashes, and all that stuff. What really is wrong on the Plateau when we're talking about home of peace and tourism?
I've taken this issue, I think about 15 years ago, to try to offer a deeper understanding of what, as an intellectual, I have been able to dig into. You see, the problem on the Plateau basically evolved from mutual suspicion, and there were factors for that. Now, the emergence of the Hausa and Fulani and other nationalities living within the metropolis as a political force is a contributory factor, because they have a population which is also relevant in democracy, and they also have economic power. So immediately after the military handed over power, this factor started manifesting itself. Now the fear by the indigenous communities of their capacity to influence and dictate who controls power in that local government became an issue. But it was breeding until when it had to be raptured with the appointment of a citizen of Jos North into the National Poverty Alleviation Program. He was appointed a coordinator by Obasanjo, and the indigenous community reacted and opposed the appointment. Based on this factor I told you, this mutual suspicion has been there. They have a population, they have the economic power, so they may be influential in determining who has power. So that became a brewing crisis that was not managed properly. And it escalated into the socio-religious and ethnic pogrom that characterized the state for a period of over a decade. It started in the northern part in the metropolis, and after a week, he relocated to the southern part and domesticated there for over 3 years until a state of emergency was declared. Now, the dynamics, which was more or less political, changed in 2010 when the Fulanis who were hitherto in the northern part of the country, not at all part of the conflict, and because they were neither interested in anything and they benefit less, so they were not interested. So all the crises, they were spectators until in 2010 they were involved. The crisis escalated. They were involved.
How were they involved?
The attacks were extended to them and their cattle. Because, of course, conflict has no leadership, it has no control, and it has no direction. The enemy in that conflict situation was not divine. So those who have taken laws into their hands define who the enemy was. In fact, there was circumstances where indigenes of Plateau were even attacked and killed because physically they possess features that resemble the enemy. So this is how crisis is. So it's because of this misapplication of identity, the Fulanis were dragged into. And on that day, I did mention in Plateau that we may not be able to see the end of our generation, may not be able to see the end of the crisis because of the psychology of Fulani people and how they respond and react to grievances and vengeance. So that has been like that. So it keeps evolving from one crisis to the other. But the political class now took advantage. The advantage here is that crisis offered them an opportunity of lack of accountability. So they became interested parties. And so they either take refuge with ethnicity or religion so that access to power becomes very easy, because in a crisis-infested environment, elections, credibility of elections are very, very obscured. Then came the issue of security vote. So you have crisis entrepreneurs now evolving even within the political system who had vested interest. And then you have the commercial class who also found new businesses in selling of relief materials, grains, and all of that material needed. So there is a multifaceted actors involved in the crisis of the state. So it's no more what we knew before that is now playing out on the Plateau. The political actors are even more involved now than even the original factors.
So at that point, we're also talking about the economy of the war. Some people will seize the opportunity, begin to sell even grains. They will not want the crisis to end. But in terms of looking at maybe way out of this, we've always been hearing of indigene, settler, visitor dichotomy. How can this be resolved? Because at the point, look, if everybody sticks to their gun, then there's no way out of this.
The best way out of it is justice.
How?
This same dichotomy existed even before the advent of colonialism. So some of these non-indigenous communities had been on the Plateau over 2-3 centuries. So, and they live peacefully. So that there is an emergence of a dichotomy now. Question the moral consciousness of the people. So, how do we deal with it? Justice. I have advised the Plateau State government that in view of the crisis entrepreneurs, multifaceted crisis entrepreneurs we have, the state government had over 4 to 5 reports of commission of inquiry, which has inducted so many people,
On both sides.
both sides, but nothing has been done. So I advised the government, I said, ceremonially, the government should produce white papers for all these commissions of inquiry, all those inducted, and then grant them amnesty, so that we can foreclose the future and open a new chapter. And the new chapter will be that anybody now who is involved in promoting, supporting, acting, influencing, inciting crisis will be dealt with. This will now restore the confidence of people in peace. They will see peace as a collective project. But as it is, there are people who have been inducted for killing some people. Families of these people are aware. They still see them. Nothing had happened to them. So what is wrong with me taking arms and killing another person? Since impunity is the rule of law.
This is Third Eye TV Africa. We are reaching you from the Central Business District in Abuja. Our guest has been Honorable Solomon Dalung, former Minister of Youth and Sports. Of course, he's been talking about peace on the plateau. And even at that, we have to look at stakeholders in plateau. What are they doing to ensure that there is peace? And outside that, shouldn't there be sanctions to ensure that those who go contrary to the law will be made to face this same law? Because it is a scale that must not tilt towards a favorable direction. My name is Ben Shaman. Let us look at stakeholders like you and many others. The days of Pa Solomon La, these crises were not there. Why is it that probably his mentors, his mentees, those he mentored, maybe are not getting, there are some missing links probably. So what should be the role of stakeholders like you to ensure that there is peace? A handshake across the divide.
Well, you see, the stakeholders of the state, that is a collapse of an interaction between the stakeholders and the political system. The political system, which is now the government, hitherto, during the Chief Solomon Lara's era, accorded respect to opinions of stakeholders. I was his PA, and I cannot remember how many times I accompanied him to peace meetings when he was alive. But what we have today, maybe with this new governor, Caleb Madfang, I see a deliberate attempt to try to revive the tradition of government stakeholders relationship, because he has been inviting stakeholders so many times to offer him opinions and to interact so that, we can narrow the gap of our differences. But before now, even though he has not succeeded, because some who had politicized the issue of stakeholders do not often honor his invitation because of political differences. We are not in the same party with him, but each time the issue of the state is at stake, I'm a stakeholder, so I have no political affiliation at that time. It is the state. But majority of my colleagues on the other side of the divide have been avoiding every call, so thereby reducing the effort of the governor to a mere political affairs, except with few of us who had decided and to insist. So this collapsed because government in the past disregarded the stakeholders instead of the stakeholders of the state, which is usually referred to as Plateau Elders Forum. The governors will constitute a forum of only his party members, so elders from his party, and appropriate the name Plateau Elders Forum. So how do others fit into? So this also contributed in weakening the capacity of the society to deal with some of these things is very familiar with. Because the peace, the home of peace on the plateau is anchored on the fact that the people have the capacity to understand their differences and deal with it. That was why Lar and his contemporaries did. Now, some of us that are his disciples
Exactly, that's where I was coming
are
to.
left with what we are doing. And even though it wasn't popular, because when we talk about peace and tell them, no, look, we need to live peacefully together with each other because we inherited peace. We were seen as maybe advocates of a very foreign idea or exotic initiative that is anti the spirit of the Plateau people. But because we were mentored by peacemakers, there was nothing they could do. So we held our grounds.
Okay, now I had reasons to visit Pa Solomon in his home in Jos, Central Jos there. And when I begin, I remember the sea of people going in there. He had nothing to do with religion, no differences and all that stuff. So my question is, like mentees, of which you are one, he mentored you and many others, across the religious divides, across various tribes, is there no Lar mentees like you that can now begin to break all these barriers?
Old Chief Solomon Lar's mentees are still doing what he taught us in our own small ways. Why it has not been louder is because, well, the political will to promote this is oftentimes against it or is playing safe. You see, the politicians on the plateau don't want to face reality because of their political interests. So they play safe. So even when it is necessary for them to come out clear and tell the people that, look, we have to deal with these things. When a person commits a crime, he should take responsibility. It should not be ascribed to his group, either ethnic group or religious group, because this is how this problem is always escalating. A man who attacked and killed somebody because he's a criminal, instead of interpreting his act individually, his identity and faith will be mobilized to define what happened. And that will become fuel. So Lar's mentees are still doing this. We still have mixed families in our houses. In my house, there are Hausa, there are Fulani, there are Christians, there are Muslims. Some of the adopted children are from this different background. So there was a time I attended a live program, and some people were inciting the Hausas to kill the Fulanis anywhere they see them. So I requested for an opportunity and asked them. I said, well, this discussion is very interesting, but I will want them to teach me how I will start, because in my house, I have a son that I adopted from Zampa, his Hausa. I have one that I adopted from, he's a Fulani from the bush. His parents are still with their cattle in the bush. So, and I have Christians. So now that we are going to fight, I want to fight, but let them please tutor me how to go about it. And they kept quiet. All these things you hear is predominantly politics. The danger of it now is that some Nigerians living outside the country are deploying the benefits of the digital civilization and are instigating and fanning the embers of religious, regional, sectional, ethnic differences. But they're not here. They will profile a particular ethnic group and keep fanning the embers, instigating their people not to trust them. But they are living comfortably there. And they are living in harmony with other tribes. So I think, to be fair to the mentees of Chief Solomon Lar, majority are still doing what he left us. But the political will to complement it so that it can be projected as when he was around is not there.
Now, something is still there, even when the political will is not there. Talking about the politics of Central Market and Jos, Terminus, you could see that it was a melting point of everyone in that place. It looks like the Central Market just is not working the way it ought to be. Terminus is not, the Igbos in there, some of them felt threatened, and it is still a gamut of mutual suspicion. How can we ensure that that place remains an economic hub of the plateau?
I accompanied Chief Solomon Lar on the day Terminus Market was attacked. Despite the fact that security condoned the place, they allowed him. He insisted he wanted to go closer. And they allowed him. When we got closer and he looked at the market, he wanted to jump into the fire. Because he couldn't stand and watch such an edifice burn down. I have to hold him and take him back. The issue of the main market, those who have ruled Plateau since after the burning of that market are either not aware of how significant that market is to the Plateau heritage, or they hate the initiator and his initiative. And so they felt he should be allowed to die down so that his legacies will be forgotten. Or that they are just politically naive. But I want to state here clearly that anybody who will sincerely want to unite the people of Plateau should go and rebuild that market. That market is like the heart of the people of Plateau. Despite their differences, they are united over the issue. The problem the previous government had was it wanted to syndicate loan from Jais Bank. Jais is an Islamic bank. So, the predominant Christian population that has been suspecting the government felt there was a hidden agenda. More so that the requisite consultation did not take place. Because if I were in the shoes of the governor, I would have adopted the Chief Solomon Lar's broad-based pattern of consultation, where people's opinion from right down to the ward level are obtained. And where we intend to syndicate the loan, the conditions and everything will be well explained to the people. But this wasn't done. There was a surprise. Government was more Catholic than the Pope and thinking for the people. Of course, it's a common attitude of the Nigerian leadership. They think for the people. The people are dying of hunger. Government is talking about tax reforms. The people cannot afford hospital. Government is talking about buying of aircraft. The people have no schools for their children. I mean, the number of people, government officials are busy traveling to London to celebrate the graduation of their children. So the Nigerian political leaders think for the people, but think for their interests. Otherwise, that market was a West African hope, commercial hope. People were coming from all over the West African countries to the market. We were united over the market, whether Muslim, Christians, Hausa, Fulani, Birom, Ngas, Tarok, we were all united. So anybody who would want to revive, and the idea of that market was initiated by our founding father, Commissioner of Police, late Commissioner of Police, J.D. Gomwok. So it has a very significant role to play in our unity heritage. But sadly, our political leaders have not come to terms with reality.
Okay. We just have some 3 questions to go. But talking about tourism on the plateau, those days, if someone never spent their holidays on the plateau, then they were not Nigerians. How do we go back to that? Look at the zoos of those days. Peter, I still remember Peter Zoo.
Peter Zoo.
Yes. And so how do we go back to that period? Look at even the Irish potato, the enjoyment here.
All we need to do is to have a responsible and credible leadership. Nigerians are very good people. The only deficiency in the Nigerian political system is leadership. With the right leadership, like the likes of Solomon Lar, the likes of J.J. Gomwok, I mean, these are founding fathers. We remember them not because they left for us legacies that are consoling. When we look at today and remember yesterday, we are consoled. The reference you made to Jos, I told somebody just this morning we were discussing. I said, when I was growing in Jos, it is the Naira that we know, the red Naira. The dollar was nothing. And this discussion came up because somebody approached me and said he wants me to come and get citizenship of how many countries? About 10. So I told him I'm looking for another citizenship of Nigeria. If there is anyone, they will give me the second one and the third one. And that if I'm going to go on tourism, I want to go to Sabagira in Langtang South. So he was trying to convince me, and I said, you can't convince me about this. I don't see anything good anywhere. And I told him how we were growing up in Jos. How the dollar was nothing, 75 kobo to $1. We did the exchange, not that we were told. How do we? If we have a visionary leader who has the proper plateau orientation, who also knows the legacies of the plateau people, which is trying to build a society that is independent of itself and its identity, and developing a psychology that is cosmopolitan and accommodates all. So Jos was like anybody who travels into Jos finds it very difficult to leave. So we will get there with the proper leadership. But I think Mutfwang is trying, except that he's not too vast in politics. So that may be his obstacle. But I think the large hardness of our political leader, plateau leaders, he has it. And I pray and hope that he will try to engage those with the relevant experiences to help stabilize him so that he can move the state back to where we were.
Yes, this last one. You were Minister of Sports, 8 years, Youth Development, 8 years, all combined, all on you. You have left that post. How do you relax?
Well, let me correct the impression. I was a Minister of Youth and Sport Development for 4 years, not 8.
Okay.
And the ministry today, as at the last time before the cabinet was reshuffled, there were three ministers manning the ministry. We actually did our best and did well. Because for me, I grew up as a youth leader. And the tradition then was that you grow into the youth movement until when you are 35, then you'll be pulled out and you become a veteran. And I was pulled out and became a veteran. So I'm not a stranger to the youth politics. The youth politics in this country suffered retrogression and attack under the military because they were scared of the youth demography. And so, because protest was becoming common, so they did everything to try to stifle the voices of the youth by frustrating the youth movement. And so when I came into office, most of the functional youth organizations had already collapsed. And I did much. I even did not meet a national youth president on ground. I met 3 people laying claim to the office. I was able to reconcile them after a very difficult effort to leave. At least we have one president now. And I proposed a different idea to how to deal with youth empowerment and development. But of course, the government opted for the Empower program, the social investment program, which the Empower, the trader money and all this. But to me, it is not the best way to deal with the youth question. The youth question has to be attacked foundationally. And then the youth incorporated into a system where they will be mentored as leaders, because that was how we were brought up. So, but you cannot just come today and be giving them 30,000 every month without even proper guidance. There is nowhere to direct them. There's no people to mentor them as well to spend the monies. So at the end of the day, we ended up with whatever it is. But I mean, much was spent on it, but little was achieved. But as an individual, I was not deficient of what to do. But you know, democracy is a game of number. So the minority has a say, but the majority will have their way.
So finally, I mean, when you look at national players in Nigeria, in particular football, even basketball, in most cases, they are always down south. One would have thought that when you were there as minister from the north, northerners will also get to go to the international limelight. What happened? Were there no scouts around in the north to also take them somewhere?
No, I think our people has a very wrong understanding of the sports architecture. Sports administration is run by national federations. These national federations are elected by members of the Congress. And we had northern actors with long-time experiences. But what Nigerians wanted is, if you're a minister, go to a village and recruit people. No, it's a process. Before you are chosen to play in the national team, you participate in a screening exercise. where you will be screened by experienced coaches. You will also be allowed to play along some teams. The skills of team spirit and even playing will be identified. If you have the talent and it has not been properly explored, you can be picked and then given the opportunity to grow. So it's not something that the minister can sit from his table and say, okay, oh, my elder brother has children who has been playing very well in the village and they're clapping hands for them. Come. No. But that is not to say that there is no politics in it. You see, the southern part of the country has dominated the leadership of most of these federations. And the choice of coaches who conduct these screenings are done by this association. So, as a minister, the only thing you can do is to lay down the principles of what you want them to do. But of course, you must be mindful of their international bodies, this doctrine of non-interference. So, once they do what is not right, or the politics of it is that, oh, even if they give them money and they squander the money, and you want to ask for accountability, they will say the minister is trying to interfere, and they will refer the issue to their international bodies. And the international body will say, oh, the minister is trying to interfere in the domestic affairs. Unfortunately, the leadership of this country doesn't have the political will to deal with it. Otherwise, some of these things that are happening should have been dealt with, would have balanced it up, and fairness would have guided the administration of sports.
Well, you've heard him all. You've also seen him talking of Barrister Solomon Lalo from